Some text on the Vancouver Ford text line about the UW Oregon game. As a UW fan, this was the least stressed I've been watching a game, knowing that we had nothing to lose. Piecing together a bowl season after how much I lost this offseason is acceptable, and the future looks bright with Damon Williams. Yeah, I would say so. Like I said this all at the very beginning when Jedd Fisch was hired. That team was going to look a lot different at the end of the year than it did at the beginning of the year. And they have a really good coaching staff. They just don't have the dudes, especially up front. Right now, it is in the trenches is where they lost the most.
Yeah.
And it is really hard to replace. Well, I mean, everywhere. You lost Carson Bruner's the only guy that's back from that team last year.
Well, because they lost all 22 starters, correct?
Except for Bruner, yeah.
Okay.
So you are missing a first-round draft pick, top 10 pick at quarterback, 3 receivers that were drafted in the NFL, all pretty damn good. And then you had to piece together through the portal. Yeah, you're going to go through it a little bit. But recruiting class is getting better, and they're going to be okay with Jedd Fisch up there. And Damon Williams Jr. is a dude.
Yes.
He will be a dude.
Well, and Jedd Fisch, though, he's another one of those where he has not stuck around, if I remember correctly, anywhere for more than about 3 seasons or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 3 is the longest he's been in place. But he's also not been a head coach at a program where he can build like that, right?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, head coach interim at UCLA, and then Arizona, it was his first gig at a power school. You move up, you're going to a place like UW where you can sit and win. Florida is going to be the one that, could be the one that pulls him away and pries him away because that's where he went to school.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, Billy Napier looks like he's safe. They're saying he's safe. And
who would have thought that earlier in the
I know. Well, and DJ Lagway, man, they got their quarterback, and he's a player. So we'll see. We do have a winner for the Bellagio's very best player of the game. It was Terence Ferguson, and T-Ferg entered the record books. He equaled Josh Wilcox.
Yes.
All-time touchdown catches.
For a tight end.
For a tight end.
Yeah, and I think in terms of all-time receptions, he broke the record.
Yeah. He is... Terence Ferguson is a guy that, think about the growth, development of these players. He stuck around 4 years, one school. It's kind of a crazy thing, especially when you have a coaching change mixed in there as well.
Right.
And a coaching change at a time where he would have been a hot commodity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been, look at this young guy he's got all of the tools to be an elite receiver. No, stuck with it, said he loved Oregon. That's why he wanted to be there, and Lanning got his hooks in him, and he is a force at tight end.
Yeah.
Staying healthy is going to be the big one for him moving forward.
And he has become, like, Dylan Gabriel's basically most trusted target, essentially.
Yeah, he and Tez.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He and Tez. Yeah.
Safety blanket.
Mm-hmm.
He's a player, man. And a lot of these guys we saw that we've seen growth from Oregon. I think when you're talking about coaches, development, growing players, we saw that with Jedd Fisch at Arizona, right? Like it was clear.
Mm-hmm.
He was over-recruiting for what Arizona had done, and he developed talent when he was down there. You see that with Dan Lanning. This is his now 3rd regular season. The guy has now avenged. Well, Georgia is the only team that has beat Dan Lanning that he has not beat yet. Yeah. He's only played them one time.
And that was game number 1 of his career, which did not go great.
That did not.
Admittedly.
Did not go well, Bob.
Yeah. But hey, could come up again this postseason, couldn't it?
Could have an opportunity to avenge that and get all of his Infinity Stones back. But what we've seen with Lanning is he had Terence Ferguson, Bryce Betcher, Jeffrey Bossa, those guys who stuck around, and the growth that you have seen from those guys that were not his recruits. Like, obviously, the guys that are his recruits that are recruited for his system, for his style, and you see them grow and mature and pop, yeah, those are the ones that make a lot of sense. I think it says a lot about this staff when you see Bossa, who came in as a safety at Oregon, bulked up, played linebacker. Last year was the Fiesta Bowl defensive MVP last year. You've seen him take even more strides this year. Bryce Betcher was a baseball player who walked into Lanning's office when he heard they were doing walk-on tryouts. He said, I'm going to play linebacker for you.
Walked onto both teams.
Yeah, I'm going to play linebacker for you. And Lanning said, all right, I like what you're saying. Come do it. And now he is he's going to have a choice to make.
Yeah.
Whether he is going to play Major League Baseball or try to play Major League Baseball, or he's worked himself into he will get looks in the NFL.
Yeah, because he's already been drafted in baseball. I want to say, was it the 13th round?
A 13th round pick by
your guys?
Houston Astros.
There we go. Yeah.
But that grind and to get to the big leagues, that's a tough one, especially in an organization like Houston where, I don't know, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
Well, and guess what? Most guys don't, spike up from nothing to the big leagues in a year or so. It'll take you a handful of years.
I think like when you look at that growth and development, that is a sign of the staff that they don't get enough credit for because you get texts like this. Lanning and his staff are great, but something tells me with Nike NIL machine, it's a bigger factor for Oregon's rise. I feel like within the new NIL era, most coaches would be pretty good with that backing. That is exactly what we're saying here, though, with a walk-on linebacker turning into a guy who is going to get looks in the NFL. Jeffrey Basu came in as a safety playing middle linebacker. Terence Ferguson, not his recruit, and coming in and rewriting the record book for tight ends. And Oregon's history of tight end play, pretty damn good.
Yeah. I'd like
pretty
you to also
good.
Notice the area code on that text.
Well, but they're not wrong though.
No, I get it.
They're not wrong
Yeah.
in that, but everybody wants to point to that and say, "Oh, they just went and threw money at Dylan Gabriel, got the best quarterback out of the portal."
Guess what? That's
Sure.
the game now. That's the game now.
And it's the game that the SEC was playing for years, but it wasn't called NIL; it was called a bagman.
Yeah.
But when you have that, what's going to separate when you have all things equal across the world of college football, funding and financial wise, and I'm not talking with everybody, I'm talking with the upper echelon of it. It is going to be the coaches that develop and grow players. That is going to make a difference. And you are going to have to do that because if everybody can just buy the best roster, the top 5% of college football, they all can do that.
Yeah.
They all can. Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Michigan. Look what Michigan just bought that Underwood kid for from LSU. LSU's another one. Texas A&M is another one. USC, Notre Dame, right? When you have those teams that have the limitless resources financially, well, then it comes down to, all right, what are you doing to grow and develop players? And I think that's when you look at the guys that are the four-year guys, not landing recruits, guys that held over the Mario Cristobal transition, you can look to, there's been a hell of a lot of development that we've seen there.
Yeah. Well, and
good players also really important.
And a big part of that also too is the buy-in and those guys believing that they should stick around and stay around here for that. And even not even for the guys that stuck around, but for a guy like Dante Moore who decided to come here knowing that he was going to sit. He was a starter last year. He knew he was going to sit. But he bought in, and he's going to get his chance, you know. And so it just feels like a different environment around there these last couple years.